All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I know I already said thank you for coming, but I really am so excited. I want you all to know everybody here was handpicked by either myself or a friend or a friend of a friend. Our group, the Actors Army, which I'm going to tell you about a little about because it's been such an incredible journey for all of us in Actors Army. We started during the pandemic, our group called Actors Army. Daisy and a woman named Andrea actually were the founders, the original founders, and they invited people like myself and other actors that were longing for connection and continuing to work on their craft. And we started this group. We met on Zoom every week for we've met for the last 4 years, but we started within the last 3 years. We got an itch and we said, you know what, we need to start making our own content. So we started a writing contest within our group. We all voted anonymously on whose script we liked the best, short scripts, and then we went into production. We did the same thing again, like 6 months later, and then we had a little mini film screening / festival. And then just this last year, we really upped our game and produced an even bigger project that Daisy herself wrote called Guests with Benefits, which, by the way, was just accepted to our first festival. We're so proud and excited. And so anyway, there's quite a few Actors Army members here. If you would please stand up and just, including you, Jack. Thank you. And so the cool thing is we stemmed off from just being actors into other members, including Jack Roberts, who's a director and an editor, and then we have someone who's not here, Jill Howell, who's a producer and former sound specialist. So we have quite a diverse team, and so we always have resources at our fingertips, and it's just been amazing. Okay, let's get into this. We have till 2:30. And let's get started. So let's start with Seth. Well, both of you, you've worked on some really big projects. And I want to know, and I think a lot of people, that are actors, that are filmmakers, that are directors, producers in this group, writers, how did you get to those big projects? Because you didn't all of a sudden wake up overnight and get onto those sets.
Well, it's funny how you think about projects as being big, because some of the things I thought I was working on that was small turned out to be big, and some things I didn't think would ever happen just happened, and some things I got pulled into at the last minute. But it usually happens because of a connection that you have, meeting people at events like this, networking in some way, making friends, working in the industry. That's how most of them just happen organically. I've never sought out for something to be a big project. In fact, I don't think of myself as being a mega producer. I still think I'm just a dumb country farm boy from North Georgia. So the industry kind of came to me in a way because I started working on films that were just filming geographically in my area. And then from doing that, then I started working on films, bigger films outside of that scope.
Okay, but you've worked with some pretty big names, and you've got a really big film coming out that's just about to come out. It's
Signing Day.
Signing Day, yeah, it's a little project with Mira Sorvino. So how did that happen? Where did that begin?
So that was another friend of mine, Glenn Owen, who is a writer-director, and Glenn has been pushing, he's had the script for 14 years, and I've been helping him pretty much since the beginning to find a home for it. We've adapted it many times. And this is a film that I'm very proud of, by the way, because most of the films that I've worked on where they come into the state, we're just the tent pole, they're here, they're working, or the money's from outside of the state. But this was the first film that I worked on where all of the money was raised by Georgians. It was written by a Georgian, it was directed by a Georgian, and we're free and clear. We didn't have any studio association, so we're shopping it now to networks and to distributors to see where it's going to land. But it turned out very well. We're very proud of it. So hopefully you'll be seeing it later this summer in theaters near you. But that was But anyway, so Glenn has multiple projects, and I was helping him with those. And we started taking meetings 5 or 6 years ago about trying to get it made. And it took us this long to get traction. We thought we had it off the ground a few times, and then it would something would fall apart with financing or something, and then finally we found a group of organically that was looking to help us with our mission of we want to make our own people and lift our own people up as much as we can. You still have to cast name recognition talent to sell a film and stuff like that, but we wanted to use as many local people as we could, had all Georgia crew. So we're trying to do that, in the model with this group of financiers that we're working with is to rinse and repeat that, maybe on different budget levels, but to lift new Georgia filmmakers up, get them to the next level so that they can come back, and then that will kind of, rising tide elevates all ships. So that's sort of where the goal with that was. And it turned out, when it's funny, most of your actors have been on set, and when you're on set, you're like just watching a film and you're like asking yourself, hope this is okay. Hope this turns out okay. And then sometimes when you see a final project and it really surprises you how good it really is. And that signing day was like that. It was like one that I was like, we really wanted it to work, and going through the whole process, I just like, I hope this is going to work. I hope this is going to work. And it turned out like better than I had envisioned. Wow. So that was, that's great. I think it's a very marketable film that could get a lot of notoriety when it comes out. So I'm hoping that one's really going to elevate a lot of us in the Georgia film industry.
Love that. So a lot of great takeaways in what we just talked about. Patience, right? Patience, determination, not giving up, and also hope for our community here is really great. It's so funny because I was at a screening the night that his screening was happening, signing day was happening, and we ran into each other after his screening and the screening that I was at got out, and I was talking to Seth, and he was telling me about the success and how relieved he was. He was with his son, and he was so excited. And all of a sudden, I had a light bulb go off. You got to be our next guest. Well,
no, it is, but it's what you think of as success it's different. There's different levels of it. It's the same thing as when you say I'm a producer on something. What does that even really mean? It can mean so many different things to a project. So all those projects, I'm a producer on various levels to something that you brought to the project or something. Sometimes it's if you bring funding to the project, that's always great. But a lot of the projects I had done up until this point, I wasn't like the creative producer and didn't have a lot of control over things. And with this production, I actually had a lot more influence, and that was great to finally be on a level where we're actually able to influence the hires and that sort of thing. I have UPM projects before, but and been able to hire as many local crews as I could. It just so happened that some of the films I've made, when you're making especially lower budget indie films, it's tough to hire crews in Georgia because there's so many TV shows and films working all the time. And when you're working on an indie, it's like, because indies come together kind of last minute, you're like, all right, we need a crew here in a month. And so it makes it a little tougher. But with signing day, things haven't really started back. So we were able to get like a really great crew for this film, and it was really easy.
Just curious, what do you think made it different for this project for you to be able to have more control over that than other projects you work on?
Just, for instance, on the casting is one thing, like to have ideas and suggestions and to try to get local actors included as much as possible, and had to have some say in like who we even approach for the lead talent to help with the locations that we pick, and even as little things like when we're talking about creative control, even the hiring process of hiring your gaffer and your DP and all that sort of stuff. Really, those are major creative decisions. So just to have a hand in that. And Glenn came packaged with some of the people that he wanted, but just to know that you're included and on the producers group of like actually bringing things to the table that can really elevate the film. So that was great. Not that I haven't done that in the past, but I had just a little more control at this time now. And it was we weren't answering to any studio, we weren't answering to just our investors, and they were very hands off on this project to help us get it made. So a lot of times, when you're working with a distributor, most of the films that I've done have been pre-distributed, and that we're working with them, and like you have to get a certain level of package of name talent to go with it, and you get told no, people that you may like that they don't like, and so to be able to do it the way we wanted to do it was nice.
Well, this is a question for both of you. Either one can answer, but you mentioned that most of your projects were pre-distributed. What is standard when you're making a film like this, or just an independent film?
I mean, I would say that I've never had pre-distribution. I've never had that benefit, so I think it's great, and it's amazing to be able to have that opportunity, because from my side of things is we've always been very scrappy of we come with an idea, and then we have to go find the funding, and then getting the film made, and then starting to shop it for distribution. Either going through festivals and then hopefully getting some distribution through that, or going to distributors directly, or distributing it ourselves. So I've had a different path.
Nice.
But, so from that way, the pre-distribution, if you're working with a major studio and you pre-distribute, that may be great, if it's a major budget. But when you're working on the lower indie side, they don't give you enough money to really get it done. So you have to find extra funding and gap fund it. And so you still have some investor level on the hook that you have to package these deals, and that just from a producing side, that is the tricky part, is how do we make this work to those who are going to be investing, and try to make a quality project, even though when sometimes you feel like the deck is stacked against you in those situations when you're working on certain budget levels, but not having it, you don't have to answer to having the freedom to say that we're going to make the project that we're going the best project that we can make without anybody outside influence.
That's a dream.
That's nice. Yes,
that's the way you want it most, right?
Yeah. But you still want to make the best project you can and make the most marketable project you can.
You just inspired a question for me. How do you decide when you're creating a film? How do you decide if you want to go the festival route or if you want to go distribution route?
Well, the pre-distribution side, when I say you pre-distribute films, most of those streamers don't care anything about festivals.
Yeah.
They want you to go straight. They're just making content because they're selling package deals to streamers, and you're part of that slate that's being pushed to the streamer. So and a lot of these kinds of films I'm talking about, they put very little money behind the marketing. So it's like you worked so hard on this film, the film's now out there on streaming, and the world doesn't know about it.
Right.
So I worked on the film with Whoopi Goldberg, actually, that we worked with, and I don't want to say names of distributors on this, but we spent a sizable budget, shot a Western. Mario Van Peebles directed it. It's out there. It's on Showtime and a few other streamers now, but they did a limited theatrical. They put no money behind the marketing of it, and it was very disappointing because we had a stacked cast in that thing, and I wish people would have known about it. It blows my mind that there's not more marketing put behind these films.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, because we're getting the same amount of marketing with films that don't have pre-distribution as you are with a distribution deal, which is insane. I feel like there's, with a lot of companies nowadays, there's so many companies out there, and they're just trying to put the content out as fast as they can, and like I said, there is no money for the marketing. So as indie filmmakers, we've started to think about how can we build in marketing into our budgets, when before we were just trying to get the movie made, and then hopefully the distributor's going to do that for us. But we realized, like you said, that's just not the case with smaller films, and you would think with somebody like Whoopi Goldberg, they're going to want to push that out, but it's really not the case either.
Yeah, Mario went on The View and talked about it, but there was no real trailers running on TV, and maybe outside of a select few markets. And it was just there, just showed up. And maybe you'll find it as you're scrolling through one of your 48 streaming services that you pay for.
By the way, the movie is Outlaw Posse, right?
Outlaw Posse, yes. Which was the sequel to Posse. If anybody saw Mario's movie Posse in the early 90s, this was the sequel. We had a huge cast in it. Cedric the Entertainer, Whoopi Goldberg, Mario Van Peebles. No, we made the deal in Georgia at the Rome International Film Festival, but we ended up filming it in Montana.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, we had to have the Western landscape, and we just couldn't really pull that off with what we were trying to do.
First, Daisy had a question, and then Denise.
No,
I thought you were asking a question. Oh, okay. Denise, please.
my question is about the marketing that you touched on, because I think that's a pretty popular topic where a lot of films, even with A-listers, don't get the PR it deserves. And then you check on the West Coast, and they're making Deadline articles and Hollywood Reporter articles from everybody, people I've never even heard of. What do you think is that kind of bridge that would bridge that, where films that are more independent will get that marketing? Is it up to you individually to go out and hire a PR, hire a marketing team?
That's the thing. It is up to you as the producer to budget that money and have a separate marketing budget most of the time. If you're working with a major studio, obviously they may have some money set aside for that. But yeah, budgeting for that. And when you're trying to get a film produced, you're normally scrapping for every dollar you can get. You don't have $1 million extra to put in marketing.
Right.
But that's really what it takes. But what's going to change that? And I think we're going to see this circle back around, and I'm hoping it can happen here in Georgia. Is we need a film market festival here in the state, like a Toronto, Kansas, Sundance. We need something like that. You know, there's rumors of Sundance potentially could be coming here.
Right.
But we need something like it. That would be a game changer for us. But you're going to see studios and streaming services are getting cheaper and cheaper. They're wanting you to make films. They want you to make a $2.5 million movie, and they want to give you $750,000, and there's a chance that you may not ever make your money back. That's kind of the model right now.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable in any way. So I think you're going to see that the rise of a real film festival can come back, and actually, like, people will start paying attention again, the way that film festivals were meant to be paid attention to. And I think that there's going to be a real rise in that, which is why I'm so passionate about the film festival circuit and running my own film festival at RIFF too, or not my own, but my.
Yeah, and I will say that we talked to we're finishing up. We're in post production on a horror comedy that we shot back in October right now, and we have talked to some distribution companies, and there are a few like that are Shudder, for instance, is. They realize, they see the difference, they see the need for the marketing, and they see where a film festival can be helpful in much less expensive marketing. So they'll actually let you take your films to the festival, and they'll just try and do some kind of like release where they're releasing it online, like right after the festival or something like that. But they realize the filmmakers are going to make their best connections and do the best marketing, especially if they can start to generate buzz at festivals. During that time, and it's not as expensive as what Hollywood, they put millions of dollars into marketing. So, and that's really hard to compete with too. I mean, there's no way that independent filmmakers were going to be able to get $1 million marketing budget. Our movie doesn't even cost that much.
I think marketing in general is just hard to reach everybody because everybody's doing their own thing. They're siloed off into what they're interested in and what platforms they're streaming on and watching. So it's kind of hard to broadly reach everybody like you'd like to.
Yeah, so does anybody have any questions on me sharing?
Does it make a film less attractive to distributors if you've done your own festival run?
Yes, they will normally discuss those things up front if you're going to be able to do that.
You talking before or after the festivals?
After.
After
if you set your film up and you've done your own run, just you wanted the accolades and the press. Now you try to get distribution. Is it too late?
I think it can vary. Yes, if it's a major festival, if you're getting into one of the film market festivals, then they would probably be for it most of the time. But there again, they have to, and it comes back to your actors' contracts and all these kinds of things. Who's got an appearance fee in their built into their contract? Is the studio going to have to then fly people back and house them at these festivals? So there's a lot of little things that go into it. So most times that's pre-discussed with the financier or the streaming service, whoever it is, how you're going to handle that. But like Netflix doesn't put anything in festivals anytime ever. But there are some streaming services that do purchase indie films and call them an original release. That still happens. So it's all varied. Everything varies. Everything's contract based on a different level.
So when you're thinking about you're shooting your movie, like I am, what is the best route to think of pre-distribution? Getting those foreign sales in place and hopefully money up front, or shoot the best movie and then try to sell it? The
safest bet is to get the money up front, which is why everybody does that model, because you don't have to come up and go to your friend and say, "Can you please give me another $100,000? We need another day of shooting."
It happens.
So it happens. So it's more secure to get it pre-distributed, but that does come with some handcuffs too. Yeah.
Jack has
So just to backtrack a little bit, how do you initially find investors? How do you initially find find the investors?
Yeah, I knew that question. I had that on here. So
Let's
a few people are always asking.
There's many roads.
Yeah, many roads, different on different budget levels, different on different projects. Everybody wants to find that investor who loves you and wants you to make art, and those are very hard to find. And if your movie tanks, you lose that investor's money, you'll never get that investor again. So you got to be very business minded when you do it. Think about what's realistic and what's.
But I suppose, are you going to like independent studios? Maybe not like Netflix, but something.
Yeah, I work
where
with.
you have inside people that can get you.
Yeah, and you have to come to them with a package. So I've got this film, I've got this director, I've got this actor that said yes to this project. What will you give me for it? And then you start building it out from there. So it may start like, if you can get X director and X actor, we'll give you, $1 million. But if you can get 2 more actors, we'll give you $3 million.
Right.
So it's kind of, it works. That's from the pre-packaging side. From the independent side is a much different game.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask, because I've heard so many other ways. I was at your panel.
Yeah.
You guys talked a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like I said, it's different. I think, like on our last film, for instance, we obviously try and cast really good actors around Atlanta. We worked with all local actors, except one actor that we found that had connections with. That he's kind of a YouTube sensation, and the director and writer really liked him anyway. And they were like, let's approach him and see if he wants to be in the film. But then, like he loved the script. He saw our other film and said, yeah, let's do it. Well, we kind of built our fundraising campaign around the fact that he's in the film, and maybe like his 1.2 million followers on YouTube are gonna want to see him in a movie. So that was kind of our campaign, kind of the core of it when we did Indiegogo, and we're successful at it because we did like live streaming with him talking about the film, like us talking about, getting ready to produce the film, and have him there answering questions for fans. And so it really we started to build a community, and that's where I'd say about 30% of our budget came in. And then other people came out of the woodwork. Like somebody saw our Indiegogo campaign and said, hey, I see you're trying to raise X amount of money. What if I want to donate that much money to the campaign? I'd rather do it outside of the campaign because I'll just basically shut the campaign down. And we're like, absolutely, And really, this guy, he's a family therapist from from Tennessee, and he loves this actor that's from YouTube. His kids love him, and he's like, I want to see him make a movie, and can I meet him? So. He just came, he came down to Atlanta and met us and wrote a check that day.
So these actors that you find to be in your motion picture, are you going through their agent, or are you just going to them directly? Because oftentimes I've done that where I ask an agent, "Oh, what's your budget?"
Yeah.
Oh, the budget is on the
Right.
The actor will never see the script.
If the agent or manager responds.
So it's like, so do you just do you just go to the actor directly, or do you have to go through the agent? I don't know if the YouTube guy has an agent.
With this one, he does have an agent. With this one, our DP had worked on projects with him already, so he made the connection, and that's how relationships. That's how we got to him.
But in general, that's because there's a lot of actors here. In general, how do you do your casting process? Do you post things on Actors Access or Backstage or casting networks, and do you go to casting directors? What is your standard procedure, or what have you done in general? What has been the most successful, other than the personal connections?
When you're packaging, going back to how you package a film, normally if you go to an agency, if you go to UTA or somebody and say, hey, we want a full roster of your clients to put in this film, and if you can package it with one agency, you're going to get more options because they're more inclined to give you better deals than if you just call them up and you're working with different agencies and saying, I want to pick somebody from here and somebody from here and somebody from here. It gets more expensive that way. It's harder to work with. If anytime you talk to an agent, it comes down to dollars and cents. Obviously, so if you have a personal connection or they're attached to the project in some way, somebody that you met on another set or wherever, and they're like, you just pitch something to them and they're like, if you ever get that going, let me know and I'll help. maybe an actor, you see a lot of times where a lead actor is an executive producer, and a lot of times it's just them lending their name to the project to help get the funding coming in. That happens a lot. Or a director can do that as well. So yeah, I think that's what was the other part of that question?
Well, just have you ever posted yourself on like Actors Access or Casting Network?
Yes,
Backstage?
Yes.
This last film, I posted on Actors Access, and then posted it on Instagram, like open casting call. And I've been in the acting world around Atlanta for a while. Like I didn't really get into filmmaking until like the mid 2000s. Like I was at Nick Conti's actor studio, and so I know a lot of the guys that came out of there. So it was also through that kind of way of like.
And what's your Instagram?
Yeah.
Invitation.
But yeah, for second, and I know some of the frustration with local actors is you're always getting the shots at the secondary parts and the bit parts. You never get those shots at the leads. They're always cast out of LA or New York, which still happens. But I think that what I was talking about, getting a film market here, finding new ways to distribute and sell your films will change some of that, being able to build your own people up into those roles. But it's going to start with doing some smaller films as leads, obviously, as an actor, that you may have to like take a month off from your job and starve and help a film. But it really, if it's a good film, it's a worthy project, it can really help you. So don't look down on some of those. I would say just make sure they're the right project for you as an actor before you can do that, because a lot of us are older adults and have responsibilities and bills and those kinds of things. So you got to look out for yourself. But yeah, if you can find a project that's worthy that you can contribute to, and if that director goes on, or that one of those producers on that film goes on to the next level, then they're going to bring you with them, right? You see producers in Hollywood all the time that work with the same people all the time. It's because they know who they are, how to work with them, they trust them. It's a trust thing. So I think a lot of it is being good people too, being a good human is the main thing that I look for in people that I work with. So
people, you want to make yourself memorable in every position. But I think that's kind of how it is in life anyway, right? But yeah, good. Well, you asked my other question there. So
I'll keep going.
You're welcome to if you have more questions. Does anybody else have any other questions before I switch gears? You in the back there.
Thank you. Seth, at the last film festival, which was amazing, we had a little talk where you were talking about film and real estate being really similar. I thought it was fascinating from an actor's perspective.
Yeah, so I think actors tend to think about the artistic side of the business, and they don't think about what the producers what they're doing. And I make that connect it to real estate. It's like we're building a building here. We got to get the funding. We got to get the building. We got to occupy the building. We got to sell the building, whatever the case may be. And you got the acting side of the creative side is what's going to occupy the building, or maybe the architecture of the building. But you still got to find the funding and to sell the building, right? And then you got to. It's a very similar thing. You're creating a property, then you're going to take that property to market and you're going to sell the property. So when you think about it like that, it actually is the investment structure and everything is actually somewhat similar. But Netflix doesn't build sky rises or anything, but that I'm aware of. Maybe. But it is very similar to think of it from the business side as like you're building a structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Good. Thank you, Peter.
So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about the film festival, and then we'll come back to some other things as well. Because I know you mentioned the importance of film festivals, and you talked about filmmakers, connections with filmmakers, connections with studios or money or whatever. But, as an actor, I was at the Rome International Film Festival, and I just was at the Atlanta Film Festival. I met some amazing people. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about, why it's important, why you guys feel it's important for everyone to attend film festivals. Like what about it what would you say is the best thing about attending a film festival?
You want to take that first?
If your film is not in it. If your film is in it, obviously you were going to attend. But
I hear you on that too, because I know a lot of filmmakers that if their film doesn't get in the festival or if they don't have a film that year, they're just like, I'm not going to the festival. I started off volunteering at the Atlanta Film Festival about 15 years ago because I just wanted to be close to people that are doing things. And that's what I always look for in collaborators, people that are willing to take chances, that are willing to just to go for it. And that's where you're going to find those people. If you're new to town, or even if you've been around forever, I still go every year. Find a way to go because I'm going to meet more people. I'm going to have great conversations, and that energy necessary to keep moving forward is probably what's going to help me, you know? Because especially as a writer, you're alone a lot of the time sitting in your house and you're like, is this ever going to just get off of my screen and become something? Or am I just doing this for no reason? So I think being with those people is like feeding that to be able to continue.
Yeah, for sure. And you never know who you're going to meet there. Networking is critical. I also think it's important in us building a community of our own, supporting each other in our own community. You think somewhere like Austin, Texas, that has South by Southwest, and you think of all the filmmakers that have came out of that scene, and they're still very loyal to Austin, Texas. They're identified as Texas filmmakers. Do we really have that here? We have some filmmakers from Georgia, but I don't think that they're not staples at every festival that you go to here, and they're not, just touting us. I think we got to build that culture. We got to support each other, build that culture, look out for each other from the top down and from the bottom up, both. And I think that's what a real film festival can be. So my wife is here as the programmer. So if you've been in any film that's ever been submitted to RIFF, she's watched your face and probably knows you. She watches all of the films and does a fantastic job. And I think our programming is next to none. I think that we do a fantastic job with our programming.
I can attest to that. It's an amazing festival. That's where I met Sherry.
Yeah. So, and you never know, because something that's just pitching RIFF for just a moment, something that's beautiful about it is you can come an hour from here, you can park your car, stay in a downtown hotel or Airbnb and walk to everything. You don't have to really get in your car. We make it all downtown. We have this cool little broad street where it all takes place. And I think that's important to know that you can get there and relax. At some festivals, you have to where am I going to go? Where am I going to park? How do I get there? How do I get here? And then when you're there and you're in that relaxed environment, then you're able to go to just the filmmakers lounge or wherever and just meet people. You never know who's going to walk in there. We do all sorts of cool things. Like we bring all the high school juniors and seniors from the local college and career academies, and we have a breakfast with the producers, and we just let them talk to anybody. And sometimes just really big filmmakers that come in.
Good food.
Yeah.
Their food is great. Their
Everybody needs to come to RIFF.
Seriously, it is. I don't know if you've ever been to Rome, Georgia, and it is such a cute little town, and there's definitely a lot to see and do there.
So make it a getaway. Come up for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But just film festivals in general, it is exposure, and if you have a film and you don't have the huge marketing budget, it's a way for you to get out, connect.
Yeah.
It's a good way for you to travel. A lot of the festivals, especially if you have a feature film in there, a lot of times most of the festivals will help fly you and put you up. And it's very important if you get into a festival, if you or someone from your team should really try to be there. It's so don't try to get into a festival and then not even have the not even try to make an effort to show up and represent your film because the festival depends on that to create the energy. But so you meet people, and we're international, so you meet people from all over the world. I've seen people from our festival go on to work on films all over the world, just from connections they made at the festival. Mm-hmm. We've set up 2 of the major projects that I've worked with just happened to organically come together at the festival, that we brought people in, and I try to bring investors in. I'm trying to create and educate an investor class in the Georgia film community. I think you see all the real estate, all the studios and stuff that are here, but there's not a lot of people putting money behind content. And I think it's just foreign to them. Where in LA and New York, these funds that have been investing in these things forever. So we got to try to educate some of our investor class on some of these things. So that's something I really want to bring to the festival is panels like that. And then once we create that, then our people, as we're building up our people, we have access to those funds. And if they're profitable films, Sony Pictures is going to take notice and say, here's you a 10-picture deal, go forth.
Thank you very much.
I was just going to say, like, something on the kind of just back to it, like, why go to festivals too, and a lot of times the mentality, I've seen it in filmmakers, not as much in actors. I've seen it in filmmakers that they're always asking themselves, like, well, how's this person going to help me? Or like, oh, they don't have any money for films. Or like, they're not going to help me get my film made. Like, that's, to me, that's just like the completely wrong attitude to go into a film festival. It's about building relationships and making friends. Like when you're somebody, I think it was Linda Burns said, like, like when you're trying to, like, you're going on a date with somebody, like, you're not like there like trying to figure out what they're gonna do for you, like how they're gonna help you, because that kind of changes the way that you interact and speak with people. And it's more about, like, I want to get to know this person. Can we potentially be collaborators today or in 5 years? Because there's people that I've met that we haven't done anything yet, but we continue to talk about things, and like there's something on the table, and like maybe this is gonna happen. And there's other people that we met and we've done 3 or 4 projects together, and we never thought we'd work together. We were just kind of hanging out, and it happened. So that's just something I want to say about the mentality of going into festivals, because a lot of people are just like, well, I'm not gonna go because.
Yeah, I wanted to add, first of all, we're not promoting Rome International Film Festival, although I will say, I will tell you it is amazing. It is an amazing, and I'm not saying that because Seth is here. It is. I've been to a few festivals. I haven't been to a lot, but it was like miles beyond any other festival I've ever been to. They really step it up to, entertain everyone, educate everyone, include everyone, feed everyone, make sure that everyone is really happy and seen. But most importantly, like, I was at the last festival I was at the Atlanta Film Festival. Daisy and I both went, and I met so many, as an actor and also promoting Guests with Benefits, I met so many incredible people, and I went there, with a pic. All I had was a poster of Guests with Benefits. I showed it to every person I talked to. It always came up in conversation, and I always gave someone my card. I took pictures of their information. I put a contact list together. I messaged you like a few days after the festival, and I just said it was nice meeting you. I heard you. I was at your panel. I loved it. Whatever. But I've met a handful of Max. I met Max. He was the photographer at the Atlanta Film Festival. As I mentioned, Sherry at the Rome International Film Festival. Like, the people you meet, it's just limitless what you can do when you are attending the festivals. The people that you meet, the knowledge that you gain. The panels are amazing. I went to as many panels as I possibly could because they are so packed with great information for us to learn about. Even as an actor and a filmmaker on the rise, so much information. I took notes on everything and just walked away feeling so proud of myself. And that's the other thing, as people in this industry, confidence is so important. And knowledge begets confidence. So attending these festivals, the things that you learn, the people you meet, confidence building. Anyway, I just wanted to add that.
And go back to you, as most of you as artists, think about why you got into this business, this industry. Why did you choose this? Just think about it. I don't want you to give me an answer right now, but just think about why. What was it that made you want to do this? And then think about where are you now? And the industry it's tough. It beats you up, right? But why do you continue to want to do it? You have to find that spark, that love for the film that you had, and I think that take that same love, that creativity that you had when you wanted to get into this industry, to say, now I'm in a festival and they're showing my film and there's going to be people there, and just go to it and just like it's your first time. Try to have that same attitude, and if you go in there with that attitude, then you're going to have a great time. You're going to meet a lot of people, and it's not always just meeting film industry networking people there. You may meet some attendee from Portugal that says that you have lunch with. He's like, hey, you know what? I've got a beach house in Portugal. If you want to come stay, just come let me know. So you don't ever know. I mean, there's all kinds of fringe benefits from attending. But you got, and I tell my students when they come to the festival too, they at first, they're all sitting around, they're at the after party, the mixer or whatever, they're all sitting around the same table, and I go like, y'all cannot sit together, go mingle, you have to go talk to people, you're never going to get anywhere talking to yourself right here. So, and it worked, I got a job, they come back and say, hey, yeah, they're looking for somebody to help you with this film. So that's true for anybody. You got to get out there, get out of your comfort zone, go talk to people, and let things happen organically.
And community.
Yeah.
Community is the other thing that's so nice. I mean, that's why we're here today. Part of one of the reasons. Daisy has a question.
So, I love feedback. I always love feedback, and I'm sure you do too. Based on the feedback you got, or based on what you think, is there anything you want to do different or changes you want to make to the festival to even make it even better than it is?
Yes, and there's lots of things we want to do, right? April and Katie are sitting over here. It's like, yes, we want to make lots of changes. So we have made lots of changes since I came into the festival in 2015. I knew nothing about running a film festival. I had just made a documentary film that had played in the festival the year before. I had moved to Rome, and the board was looking for a director, and they're like, this guy made a film. He knows about the film industry. Let's put him in charge. But it's event planning, right? So it takes a lot, and we've learned so much over the years of how we're doing it and what we're doing, and it's just been trial and error. But yes, there's lots of things that we would like to do. We are international. We have signed MOUs with different countries, and we're working with different schools in different countries. We have we've been visited other countries like Israel, the Bahamas. We have a sister festival in Italy that I've never been able to attend yet.
In
but
Rome?
It's not in Rome. But that is so. We're Rome, and I know Laura has Athens Film Festival. So when I was on a filmmakers panel at Slamdance Film Festival a few years ago, and I was wearing my little hat. It was cold. I was bundled up, had on my scarf, and they said, "And the director from the Rome International," and all these filmmakers came flocking over. And then they heard my hillbilly accent. And they were very disappointed. But I have a waiver when you submit to the festival that says, you understand this is Rome, Georgia, we're submitting to, and we still get people that submit. It still happens. I have a funny story. Winston Azopardi he's a producer. He produced Gladiator and Troy and some of these films. And they were making a short film, and he's from Malta. He's the film guy for Malta. Like anything that films in Malta, he's the guy. So they submitted to us a little short film that he was directing, and they're trying to make it into a feature. And so they submitted it to us, and we accepted it. And I could tell that he realized that he had made a mistake, that he was coming to Rome, Georgia. And this is in our early days of running the festival. But he came, and he had a great time, loved it. We actually
didn't eat Italian food.
We actually connected him to a few people while he was here, and I don't know. He had some funding already, but it helped get their film made into a feature. So now he's a friend to us, and refers people to us. So once you get these people here, like the filmmakers are your best disciple to spread the word about what you're doing there. So if you got to treat the smallest filmmaker the same as you treat the biggest filmmaker, and all the talent that's there to try to build that, because one day that little filmmaker is going to be the big filmmaker, right. And you want them to remember you and say, "Oh, that festival treated me like shit." I'm not coming back to do that. So you got to be kind, right? Anything you want to add?
Following up, any specific changes you think you make?
Oh, well, so we are adding. So we are having and I have Luke here, I have Saul with me, so they can take any of the questions in Spanish if you want. But we are making a big push to do more international, more Latino films. We're doing.
One of the things that I want to say a couple of things about the festival. I moved to Rome, Georgia in 2021, and at that time was in September. I missed the festival because I was out business traveling. I participated in 2022 and 2023, so 2 years as a volunteer photographer And I guess I did a pretty good job. They asked me to be part of the board of directors now. So, but here's what I want to say about this. James Hughes, who submitted, I guess, was that his first film?
He's a British filmmaker. And
He's a British
that
filmmaker.
wasn't his first film, but his first time he came to Rome. We've accepted 2 or 3 of his films.
So we speak about what we need to change about film festival. This is a conversation that I had with him, and I asked the same question. What's the feedback? Can you tell me how do you feel about our film festival? And this is what he said. Don't change. Please don't change. Keep your festival feeling as though somebody invited me to their living room to watch a movie. I have gone through every festival there is, and they become sterile, disconnected, cold. It's a procedure, it's an assembly line. Rome has what others don't have. It's that warm, come to my living room, do you want some popcorn, do you want a soda, let's watch movies. That's how it feels. And he said, I can tell you what you might need to improve, but more importantly, don't change this. Because this is what makes you film festival completely different than everything else. In addition to that, I think that is important. I'm a photographer. And so the mecca in the United States for everything photography is called Imaging USA. And Imaging USA is everything photography. The best of the best from the world and from the United States come to Imaging USA in different cities. And you go there, you submit your photography for competition, you go there to participate, you go there to meet people. And I remember my mentor who taught me where I am today in photography, he said, go there not looking to get something. Go there just to show up. Because somebody, somewhere there, saw your photo and said, oh, you are so and so. And then the dots begin to connect. And that is more valuable than you trying to win the gold prize of your photography. Even if nobody knows your photography at that moment, somebody will have seen your photo or heard of you, and then the dots begins to connect. And that's more important than actually winning the whole prize. The other thing we are doing different, which is something that Julie, you and I spoke about last when we met, is I want to bring the festival to the country of El Salvador. And so we've been connecting to the people in El Salvador to see how RIFF and the resources that RIFF can have, and when I say resources, I mean people like you, so that we can bring all this talent to teach people in El Salvador, actors. If you remember a little bit about El Salvador, it's been shut down for so many years, right? Now there's a renaissance in El Salvador. And one of the things that the Ministry of Culture in El Salvador is asking for is professional, talented people. They don't have a festival. They don't have a film academy. They don't have a photography academy at all. It's just the beginning of the country opening. And I'm looking at all these rooms, all these people here. I'm looking at my friend Seth and say, well, what can I do to bring this talent to the country that is asking, come. We'll give you incentives. We will give you incentives for you to come. So part of what's changing is launching the Rome International Film Festival. Not launching it, but continue to expand it internationally. So that's why
It's incredible.
It is funny. We are a 501c3 nonprofit film festival, and we have to raise the money every year. And like we have all these international connections, but we're a tiny little organization. So to get the recognition, and in Rome, Georgia, there's not a ton of film industry. There's not a lot of there's things that come up there and film, but there's not. I mean, it's not like it is here in Atlanta. So we're trying to get more industry sponsorships, more industry participation. So if you know anybody, and all the film festivals, I'm sure around the state feel the same way, if they want to help out in either in kind or do a panel, do something that touches the festival, anything that you can do helps, because we're trying to create an arena to lift up our filmmakers, but it takes a lot of work to put on a festival too. So it takes half of my year to focus on that, not just me, but our team of people. We get all the submissions. People have to watch those and all year long, and you have to, it's a process. So, and then plus just the event planning part of it and making it special, and it takes a lot.
Yeah, Denise has a question, and I want to ask a question.
Do you have a board or advisory team that you guys kind of tap into, that it might not be just in Rome, but throughout Atlanta and Georgia?
We do. We probably don't do a good enough job with it as we should, because I think there's quite a few film festivals around, and everybody's kind of getting hit up for the same kinds of things. But we do have industry advisors that help us out. But we're open to more, and I need to do. It's just most of us do it volunteer, but we're trying to build it up so that it can sustain itself. And we've been around. This will be our 21st year. Yeah, we're old enough to drink. So that could be dangerous.
Yeah. So I'm curious because Rome is a gorgeous town. What do you think Covington? Is that where we were
Yes.
last week? What do you think Covington did that they're getting so much filming going on?
Well,
there?
they have a deal with IATSE where they're in the zone, and so even though when you feel like you're driving out to Covington, it feels like it takes forever to get there.
Yeah.
But they're in the zone, in the production zone. Rome is outside of the zone. The zone stops about Ackworth is where the zone stops. So you can make a special deal with IATSE but there's people that live on the west half of the Atlanta that would much rather drive against traffic. So some of those rules, I can't change those rules, but those are union rules. That's been the biggest issue with getting more filming over on that side of the state. And people come, like the big productions. We have Netflix, Stranger Things shoots in Rome.
Really?
Yeah.
So
but they'll come up, and the big players, they can just rent whatever. We had Eddie Murphy film the Pickup that just filmed they filmed a lot of days in Rome. So things do happen up there. Sweet Home Alabama, Remember the Titans, some of the films that have been up there, but then some independent films too. But there's not. We don't have enough films there, and I'm trying to build a crew base through the education so that when films come there. But a lot of times when films come in, a lot of times, especially if they come in from LA, New York, wherever, they have their own crew, and I'm sitting here trying to get my people jobs, and then when they come here and they don't get jobs, and that part gets kind of frustrating. But so it goes back to it all works together. Our ecosystem all works together on building up each other and supporting our community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And does anybody have any other questions?
I just have a question about actors, switching a little bit back to our actor
Yes.
friends
Yes.
here. If you could tell us, both of you, what are examples you can give of actors that stand out for you when you work with them? What did they do to make them stand out in your
Good
mind?
question.
To be accurate.
Well, I helped produce a film. This is an interesting example. So, do you know who Marla Gibbs is? Marla Gibbs was on the Jeffersons.
Oh, yeah.
And she's older. She's from LA, and so we were filming late at night. She was playing a witch.
Yeah.
And so we're filming in a cave, and we had to carry her into the cave. It was the Lakers game, so she's a huge Lakers fan, and so she wanted to check the score of the Lakers game all the time, and we couldn't get any service in the cave, so we had to send someone outside the cave but she would go when she would just be talking to everybody on set, and then the moment the director called action, she just went right into it, was locked in, nailed it on a couple of takes, perfect, didn't miss a beat. And then as soon as she said cut, she was like, "What's the score?" But that was one. I mean, she was just super professional. Just how polished that she was, that she could turn it on. It was a complex role that she was doing too. It wasn't like an easy little role. I mean, I've had lots of experiences, but the main thing that sticks with me is just, like I said, being good people. I've worked with some people that I probably wouldn't. In fact, I have worked with people that I would tell other producers, I wouldn't work with that person. So you don't. And then other producers called me and said, "You worked with this person before. Would you work with them again?" You want to be one of those people that you say, "Yes, I would work with that person again."
I'd say on the indie level, actors that show up prepared, already knowing their lines, and coming from an acting background too. I was always I know the other person's lines as well in the scene, so I'm never lost. Just always showing up on time, being prepared, and being reachable when you're on set. Because there are certain actors that, when you say cut, okay, we're gonna reset, and they just disappear. And then like, you know, we may have like we're just flipping the camera around maybe, and it only takes like 15 minutes. But then like it takes us another 15 minutes to find them because we don't know where they are. So always being ready, like being on standby. Like you don't have to always be like on edge, but you know, being within earshot of what's going on and being interested in the process. So I think on indie films, it's really hard. It's always hard. We're always working against time and money in any film, but especially in indie films, it's like way more important because we want to take care of everybody. And as a producer, I promise that I always take care of my crew and my actors because I want you to want to come back and work with me again. So you guys are always my top priority, but I want the actors to be that same way too of like, you know, yes, it's a small indie film, but we're still here to be professional and like we're all acting professional. So I think that's just that idea of like we're all collaborating and like we're ready to do this together.
And you've gotten a great amount of distribution. I saw that you've gotten distribution on a lot of different platforms. You've also won awards in festivals. I saw.
Yes.
What is it called?
A Band of Rogues.
Band of Rogues, yeah.
That was our first
Best
feature.
Director awards and Best Audience awards, jury awards. So you can tell that you've got like a solid team working together. You have to have a solid team working together. So, and that includes actors.
Yeah.
Actors need to be team players.
We have a lot of repeat actors too. Levi Burdick, if you know him, he's been in our last like 3, one short and last 2 features. So like Levi is always ready to go. He's one of those guys. He's a Rome guy.
Yeah, and another like my students, we do student films every year, and we try to do high quality pieces while I'm training the students. And Levi is one of the actors. He comes out and donates his time to help us. And I mean, I'm sure he gets tape out of it or something, but we've put him through a lot of stuff, and he's just there to help us out with. So if you're an actor and you can contribute to those. Even if it's a student film, if it's something that you feel comfortable working on, or you want to get to know somebody, don't be afraid to do that because you're really helping people out. And I think that karma exists.
Yeah. And I would say too, like there's this mentality, like I get stuck in it too sometimes of like, oh, like, you know, everybody's got their group and like they're not going to welcome me into the group and like I'm an outsider. But I'd say from like a producing standpoint, like I'm always looking for somebody new to surprise me because we want to add good people to the crew. And like, you know, we try not to be like, what's the word? Nepotist, you know, of always hiring the same people. Like we always have an open door. And that's why I like to reach out on Instagram sometimes because you never know who you're going to get. You're in a lot of crazies as well sometimes. But, but hey, you know, that might be the kind of crazy I need.
Having worked with actors that have been in the business for forever and then people that are new to the business, it's, for me as an actor, memorizing the lines is like something that's always been hard for me. And you want some directors want you to say it verbatim and some give you room to play. And I've seen all actors come with different approaches. And we worked with Christopher Lloyd on a film, and Christopher Lloyd showed up, and his agent was like, Christopher Lloyd loves the part. He's so excited to do this. He showed up. It was my wife's birthday, and we met him. I had Christopher Lloyd at the hotel, and we went to meet him for dinner. I said, "Look, surprise! It's Christopher Lloyd for your birthday." And he was. I think he was reading the script for the first time at the hotel the night before we were shooting, and like so, the agent told me that he was all excited about it, and he was just trying to memorize it. He showed up on set, did a great job. But it was a kid's film, it was rated G, and he was wanting to add a lot of F-bombs in his lines. So he had to dial it back. He's a professional. He did a fantastic job. But like just seeing how people approach it, like I don't know that I could show up on a set that unprepared. And you know, if you've been doing it for 50 years or whatever, maybe you can. But that was terrible. I want somebody that shows up, knows the role, know that you can obviously improvise if the need calls for it, but just know your lines and be ready. Because if you call, I have had another actors that did not know the roles that we burned an entire day, had to pay for another day, flip the day for actors, cost of production, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 for another day, and because some person showed up unprepared.
Yeah,
that's the one that hello, how's so and so?
Yeah.
And the thing about collaborating, like you were saying, like professionals have been doing it for a long time, can surprise you and bring new things to the role that you didn't think about as a writer or director. I would say like on set, like we want actors to bring new aspects to the role that we haven't thought of, like to fill in the blanks, to give life to the character and have suggestions. But suggestions are also things that can slow down production too sometimes. If you're like, what if I did this? Or what if I did this? Or what if I did... Like, I think a lot of times those conversations are good to have before the day that you're filming. And then, like, finding an opportunity to, like, if the director's just kind of standing there like, I don't know what I want to do, you know, maybe come over to the side and be like, what if we did this? But not making it all about, like, the suggestions and ideas you have for the scene in the moment, because that can also waste time.
Don't do it in front of the whole crew. Do it.
Right, like I said, like come over to the side and be like, hey, what if we did this thing? And, you know, let him make that decision, you know.
In independent films, like I'm talking about, people show up sometimes, they're there for 2 days and you're paying them and they show up and you don't know if they know the role or not. You've had no time to rehearse outside of maybe one Zoom reading or something like that. But I learned this actually talking to Francis Ford Coppola. Even on the big films, he did maybe, I mean, I don't have the budget that he has, but he did maybe 4 or 5 days of rehearsal with each actor, just exploring the parts and letting them ask those questions and thinking that if you had that opportunity, I mean, I've never had that ability outside of really independent stuff to define that, but think what that would be like if you could rehearse and just get comfortable with each other. So I think that the more time, when you said suggestions, if you have suggestions, if you've read the script, communicate ahead of time. And I think you had a lot of that stuff. I tell my students, they're filmmakers, all the creativity, most of the creativity outside of the acting, most of the creativity goes into the film during pre-production. And especially an independent film. And once production starts, you're just trying to salvage what you thought your idea was. And sometimes things happen. Sometimes an actor brings something that's amazing. Yeah. But you're just trying to keep the vision somewhat alive. So the more prepared you can be, the better. Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure you hear that all the time. I'm sure at acting classes they're beating that into your head. But that's just is very true.
Yeah. And be ready, like just to have a couple ideas in your back pocket, like of different line reads, you know, because maybe the director, instead of like having to shout out your ideas or talk about them, like just have it ready. But the director's like, let's do this again. Like, I'm not sure what I want, but let's just see what we can do. Like, you already have a different line read in your back pocket to do and surprise him and be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do the scene this way.
And tell the director how you like to be spoken to. Like, so I don't just say, you know, you get some terrible directors say, can you do that faster?
Oh, right.
Or can you be more sad? You know,
do it sadder.
So,
Yes,
so be very specific about, like, you know, how you're saying a certain word, or do you like it when if I put more facial emotion and
be more clear.
Yeah, just be more clear about how you what. And I would say that the first day that you have the opportunity to talk to the director, be clear to me about, or if you have anything particular, like
not when you're filming the scene.
Right.
Like when he comes to see you in wardrobe, like, hey, how's it going? Then you have those opportunities.
Right.
So
at this point, unless there's something more you guys want to add, I would love to open it up to questions. Is there anything else you want to add that I haven't?
I don't think so. Who here has not been to the Rome Film Festival? All right. Okay. Who here has? We have 2 great festivals coming up. Macon and Athens are both coming up in July.
And Rome is
August.
Yes. And then Rome is in October. Halloween.
Yep, we're on Halloween this year. So we have some swag for some of you guys too. Some gifts.
Nice.
To give out.
Sweet. Okay.
So I don't know. I figure most of the dudes want the trucker hats. If you want to, we have some of those. If you'd like one.
Quick question. I'm sure some people may want to volunteer at the festival. Who do they reach for that?
So you can reach out to. We have a basic account. It's called info@riffga. I think there's a spot on our website you can go to at riffga.com to volunteer. But we also have a volunteer at riffga. Goes to our volunteer coordinator, and we would love to have your help volunteering at the festival.
What happens if you volunteer? Tell us about volunteering.
Okay, there's different levels of volunteering. Some of it can be anything from, obviously like filling up popcorn jars, being an attendant, being being the person that speaks before the film, that tells you all the leading a panel, helping organize the panel. There's opportunities. Like, we like to work with you a little bit, maybe for 1 year. Then if you want to get more involved, you're like, hey, I would like to put together a panel on something. We'd love your help on that kind of stuff. So very community minded. But we have drivers, we have filmmakers. Like, sometimes we have drivers that go pick up some people. Sometimes I've been like, hey, Ethan Hawke changed his flight. Do you want to drive Ethan Hawke back to the airport? So
It happens.
That would be terrible.
Even volunteering for some of us to open our home for somebody who couldn't find perhaps a place to stay. We have a room over here in our house. You can stay with us.
Yeah.
So with that open at the festival.
What's your address, Tom?
First come, first serve.
Luke has a question.
Seth, I really love what you're doing with the Investors Workshop. I think that's really cool. Could you elaborate on that and kind of talk about the importance of fostering a creative community for, dare we say, the elites in our society, and how we can incorporate them into our art so that we can actually have financing organically made here in this workshop?
Well, most investors in Georgia, particularly, are either real estate or they make widgets of some kind, and they want to know. In their mind, they're like, so how does this investment create this many widgets? They want to see the payoff.
Yeah.
And I would say to most investors, just as a personal advice, and I mean, I hate to say this because I've asked people for money before, but investing in a single film that doesn't have any major stars in it is not always, unless it's a passion project, it may not be. You need to know the team that you're working with. So I think it's comfort level of like getting to know who we are, showing our track record of success, knowing who you're working with. LA is also money, there's a lot of funny money that people like. It just seems mysterious where it comes to and who gets it and where it goes. So I think that investing in companies or investing in a slate of films, diversifying your risk, saying like, I want to make 3 films with these guys and not just one film. If one of the films does well, it'll cover all 3 of the films. Those are some things that I think you can talk about. Then there's also like if we want to find investors, we want to get, like you said, the elite. Like, so we want to do an A-list cast and work with these people. And, you're still most likely you're going to be working with a studio at that point, but you still bring some money to the table. And at that point, usually the studio has an investment structure that plugs into where they're at. If we got into somehow having our own distribution, that would be a different story. Maybe some entrepreneur comes along and sees an opportunity as we're doing this and creates something like that I don't know what that is. I've been thinking about this for a while. Like, how can we solve this riddle of distribution?
Is there, because like, as I'm learning more about this awesome film festival one of the things that I can't help but think about is that film festivals almost have this model of like a church, right? And it's like, my question is, how can we almost treat it like a church and evangelize? Like, how can we get people...
Start a cult.
Yeah. How can we take people who have financial needs, who aren't necessarily interested in film, and say, and bring them into this culture and say, this is a growing culture that I like movies. Like, how can we
brainwash them?
Well, I don't want to do. So the thing is, I don't want to do it with it being brainwashing. I would like to have a legit model where it looks like you're going to actually, this is actually going to work. So,
well, I just need the effect.
Yeah, the effect. So I think that it just starts with getting the right kind of the alternative investments from big holdings and big banks to show up and like presenting them with opportunities, outlining to them what these structures look like, showing them some real examples of successes. I think that's where it's just getting them in and exposing them. I think there are more people that are interested in it, but it's just not in their portfolio, right? So it's always a handful of banks in the country that produce all the films, all the major films. And so to get the smaller banks just aren't as risk adverse to do that. But I think that there's an opportunity to open even a branch or find some.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was when I was listening to the panel you were on without the other producers,
Yep.
weren't there a number of people talking about going to like attorneys and people that had like just finding places where people are the wealthier clientele are
Oral
congregating.
surgeons.
Oral-
I hear.
Yeah.
Oral, no, seriously. Historically, I know that oral surgeons in LA have invested a lot into films, and I think it was I think it was Tim Reese that was sitting beside me. He was saying that they started doing that here in Georgia too. So we need to talk to oral surgeons. Yeah, they got a lot of money.
And maybe, will they sponsor the film festival?
Maybe.
They may.
Yeah.
They may. So, but it's thinking out of the box, really. It's
Right.
basically thinking out of the box and finding a way to, come up with a pitch. We're always having to pitch everything, right? But it's coming up with a pitch.
Yeah, I have a question about, let's say that you're starting out and you need to get money for your short. And so that can be a hard sell.
Yeah.
Talk about these investments you're not getting
Just-
to raise your pocket.
I can't
So
hear.
what kind of strategy would you
So
get
for funding a short film.
Oh.
Short films are, unless it's a short, it's like a pitch project or something, or a pilot. It's very hard because there's not much of there's not as easy
Right.
of a monetary reward for shorts.
But people do it. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars. They're like, I spent $50,000 on my short film. I'm like, my first film cost $20,000 as a feature. Like, why'd you do that?
Yeah. So I think the answer to that is passion project, attaching someone to it that's going to lead to future connections, like lead your investor to future connections, whetting their appetite, so to speak. If it's like, this is what the industry looks like on a small scale. If you have a model to show them your return, I think if there is a return on investment, that's always the hardest part for a short film. But like Wes Anderson's only Oscar win is for a short film. This past year. So
I know it's.
I would say that you're wonderful as far as like creating a culture in Georgia, as far as getting from the ground up people who are wanting to get their films out.
Yeah.
It would be wonderful to have like similar type of gathering. We talked about getting
and
investors together, but sometimes training.
Seed and Spark, if you've heard of Seed and Spark, they do a lot of that those kind of coaching. Seed and Spark.
Oh, so yeah, right.
So they're, I would look to them, but crowdfunding, and I would say get more investors to take smaller amounts of money is easier than getting one investor to put lots of money into it. Focusing people in the community are connected to the project. All right.
Yeah.
Luke's done more of this kind of thing than I have probably. So.
Are we talking about short films? I can't hear you very well back there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I also want to plug, I had a short film at RIFF 2 years ago. I love it as a filmmaker. Everyone wants to talk to me after. I also help volunteer, these guys, and it's amazing. Everything they said is true and wonderful. So feel free to talk to me. But it seems like it created a culture of so many people that are wanting to get financing for their short films. It doesn't offer the same financial structure for some local folks. Crowdfunding is awesome, but it's also a really exhausting process for creatives and filmmakers. So it works really well, and you also build your audience that way. But let's say you have a connection to oral surgery, right?
Right.
What is the strategy that, and that's, again, it's like a passion project. It's like, you're going to have to share this.
Yeah.
So I just love to hear your thoughts on that.
I honestly have not spent as much time in shorts. I have done shorts, and the majority of the shorts I've done, they've been more experiments, or they are, like he said, a vehicle to get a feature done. So I don't have as much experience, honestly, with funding shorts. We've always just tried to do it as scrappy as possible and get it done. Because it is, for us, it's more a way of like practicing, like how, it's like a certain idea or style or way of shooting that we're trying to do. And this, for us, the shorts are a safe way to do it. So I honestly don't have as much experience with that. I have done more crowdfunding. I've done like 4 crowdfunding campaigns, and 2 have been successful. The other 2, and they were both for features. And they are a lot of work, and it's like,
And I'd say, like he did with this film, get an influencer perhaps in the film, involved in the film. There are grants out there for short films. Partner with as much as you can with educational.
Honestly, there are more grants out for short films than feature films because it's easier to give somebody $10,000 to go make a short because the $10,000 is not going to make much of a dent in a feature. So I know there are a lot of there's a lot of grant programs out there.
Oh, that's good. I didn't realize that.
Film Impact Georgia has a short filmmaker grant, but there's others out there too that even through like National Endowment for the Arts, there's some grants, especially for a lot of documentary style projects, especially.
Denise had a question.
It did.
In the comments.
So it was a two-part question, and I'll start with the one I remember, which is you had mentioned that you were back and forth between Argentina and here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm curious to know what is the work that's bringing you kind of back and forth, or is it just separate work in Argentina and here?
Passion takes me to Argentina. I love Argentina. I love the people. I love working with them down there. My first feature I made in Argentina, and that was really because somebody from Noonan bought a farm in Mendoza, and we were like, let's make our movie down there. So that's
expensive to make a movie there.
Yes, absolutely. And Seth and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like there's the eagerness and the passion down there as well, where I feel like a lot of filmmakers and crew and people here take it for granted that we can make movies and there's money to make movies and whatever. They get jaded. There's a lot of passion. I just keep saying passion over and over again because South America in general is very passionate, as many of you can speak to that. So that's what takes me back down there. Inspiration. So I've made two features and a documentary and a short in Argentina now. So a good number of projects.
How do you get funded to do those kind of things? How do you get funded to do those?
The first one was crowdfunding. We did crowdfunding here and then took a small group, about 8 of us, our core team, down to Argentina, and then hired all the other actors and crew from a local art school and a theater. So that's how we did. Like, they were used to working in theaters, and they're like, "Hey, we want to work on a film." We're like, "Let's do it." The feature that I directed down there, which the second feature, was funded through Rotary. Honestly, Rotary Club. Like, they had written the script and they hired me to direct it, and it was a film that went like straight to television, essentially. And then the shorts were all self-funded projects. Yeah. But we're looking into, like, they have, for instance, in Mendoza, Argentina, they have a cash rebate program. They'll up to 40% of your budget based on up to $250,000 spent. So it's like around like $125,000 they give you back. So like they're trying. I'm talking with them now about how to do the same thing like in El Salvador. Like, they want people to come down and educate and have this mixture of people from here helping them. So I'm all about, building up those communities in other parts of the world, because I think as film gets more expensive to make here in the US because of certain unions, and I love the unions, I see the necessity for them, absolutely, but it makes it impossible for a certain level of filmmaker financing to get films done. So you can do a film down there for $300,000, which would cost you $1 million here. So I'm all about building up those communities in other parts of the world.
Has particular grants to help that field to realize, which is one of the things I'm working with, because I know the government currently in El Salvador is allocating money to bring out the culture. We're talking about theater, we're talking about filmmakers, producers, we're talking about actors, we're talking about photographers. So they're allocating funds, and what they don't have is the level of know-how, the professional level that we all very familiar with, and they're pretty much saying, "Can you come on?" Right? So I'm trying to see how I can plug Seth Ingram from his responsibility.
Yeah. Well, I would love for us to continue this conversation and keep that going. Absolutely, I'd love to. I'm all about it.
Majority of the scripts are Spanish and English, or all Spanish?
I did bilingual.
Bilingual.
Well, one of them was in English with a little bit of Spanish, so it was like heavy in the English, a little bit of Spanish. And then the other feature with the Rotary Club, that was all in Spanish completely. And the documentary and the 2 shorts were completely in Spanish. So that was my like master class in learning Spanish, trying to direct. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, I had like a few people that could speak English, and then the rest were all, speaking Spanish. So I had those people that could help me.
We have time for one more question, I think. So Denise, you sure? Does anybody have another question?
I was just curious, how many submissions do you typically get versus how many you're able to screen?
Oh, good question.
So we normally get around 1,000 to 1,200, something like that per year, which is not, compared to other festivals, it's not a huge amount, but we normally program all total around 80 films, counting shorts and features. So somewhere in there.
You combine the features and the shorts in the same, like if it's all a comedy thing, you'll do a 5-minute short and a full feature comedy, or
Well, yeah, we have a
you
comedy.
break those up?
We have different genres. Like, so we have a comedy shorts block, but for the features, if we picked a narrative, it would just be a narrative film that we would pick as. We don't give a specific comedy award, though I would love to, because comedy films are my favorite. But yeah, we have just different categories.
So it'd be a block of shorts.
A block of short, yeah, and sometimes 2 blocks if we have enough great films.
And we give away the Sylvia Award.
But you're asking about viewing. They watch every single submission that comes.
Yeah, we have a team that's, and we always can use more because it's a lot harder than you think it is. And April and Katie are sitting over here, but we have to watch all these films because I don't, as a filmmaker myself, and you put a film in a film festival, I wonder half time, did somebody watch that? So.
Do you have a checklist that you do when you watch it? This meant this, it meant this, it didn't meet that.
Yep, I teach all the screeners. We have a screening process. We give it 10 stars in certain categories, and then we write a little critique about each one. And a lot of programming a film festival isn't. There's been some really great films that we didn't program. It's all about like you have to fulfill the genres that you promise, and you have to. Sometimes you got a local film that you really need to put in, and it's just different things. There's different things that go into it.
And do you get back to those filmmakers about whether they made it or not, and why they maybe
We
didn't make it?
we let them know that they did not make it with a very friendly letter. and we don't publicize that we will give feedback. We have filmmakers ask us. It's actually not as many as you think that ask why didn't I get in.
I would like to know how I could improve it.
Yeah.
So maybe.
So I would say if you're making a short film out there, especially for short films, the shorter the better. If you can keep it the short, because it takes up screen time, right? So if you can keep it shorter the better, and get to it pretty quick, because film, like any audience, the screeners they want to get hooked pretty quick in your film for the most part. If you can, those are the 2 biggest tips I can give you as a short filmmaker. I know we're at this time.
I wanted to see if our Zoomers have any questions before we close, and I have a comment before we close. No questions, Zoomers.
I just wanted to know the website you gave so that we can volunteer or help you guys out in any way.
Okay.
At the festival?
Yeah.
If you go to RIFF, G-A, like Rolling National Film Festival, Georgia.com, and there's a Get Involved section, and on that Get Involved section, there's a link to volunteering.
Nice.
And tell us what you're good at or what you would like to do when you go there's a comment, and then we can.
And
RIFF.
RIFF, okay. And I wanted to just while we have everybody together, you may have seen us posting on Instagram. We have a contest. Actors Army goes into production. We just completed our 3rd one last year. We want to do another one this year. So we're doing a writing contest. And the current date is the 30th, although we may extend it a little bit, right? For special people. We won't mention names. But no, we just have some people that asked that they said that they have some.
So it's an extended for all.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. But anyway, we are open to receiving submissions for our writing contest. And I just wanted to say, on the heels of everything we were just talking about in finances, we did 3 films, and somehow because we all worked together as a team. We were able to get enough money together to not only, in the third one, to not only film our project, we had 17 people on set, including the actors.
Wow.
And, we kept it to one location, and we minimized the amount of actors, but we were able to pay every single person on set. It wasn't huge amounts of pay, but everybody was paid. So, and we were able to film it for a very decent amount.
But it's done. It's out there.
But it's not as much as these two were talking about.
I just wanted to add before everybody gets up. We want to thank Pralgo for
Yes.
Yeah. I also want to mention Seth, our newest Actors Army member, who has recently contributed funds for our project. And last but not least, don't run without getting a group picture and hashtag RIFF and hashtag Actors Army.
We're older than the other home. The other home.
And I also wanted to just give a plug to Rob, an additional plug. Rob is, aside from being an amazing actor, a veteran, 36 years?
72.
Yeah, 72 years. But he doesn't look a day over 20. But anyway, he's an amazing coach if anybody ever needs assistance with their acting work. He's incredible.
And also wonderful classes.
Oh yeah, wonderful classes as well. Yes. I hope you guys stay a few minutes afterwards and chat with each other. We're gonna take a group picture. I hope you get to stay and chat with each other. Honestly, this group is an amazing group of talented individuals. Everybody has an opportunity to meet someone that can definitely enhance or change their life. So.
And for Julie, come on, people.